The house was quiet, not empty, not dead, just waiting. For me, before we begin, a small request. If you enjoy slow, uncomfortable horror stories, the kind that crawl under your skin and stay there, do me a favor and subscribe now. Because this story is about what happens when you stop doing anything at all. It's about the stillness and what waits for us inside of it. I used to move constantly. It wasn't a choice, not really. It was an impulse, a deep-seated instinct I couldn't explain. My foot would be tapping under the table, a rhythmic, anxious beat against the linoleum. My fingers would drum against my thigh, a silent, frantic song only I could hear. When I stood, I'd shift my weight from one foot to the other, a restless sway like a tree in a constant, invisible wind. I didn't know why I did it. It just felt safer. It felt like a shield. Nothing ever happened while I was moving. The world kept its distance. The shadows stayed in their corners. The quiet remained just quiet. It was a simple, unspoken rule I lived by. As long as I was in motion, I was okay. The moment I stopped, well, I didn't know what would happen. And for the longest time, I was too afraid to find out. Then came the night I broke the rule. One night, I stopped. It wasn't a conscious decision. I was walking from the kitchen to my bedroom, a glass of water in my hand. Mid-step, halfway down the long, dark hallway, my body just froze. My foot hovered an inch above the floorboards. My chest was full, my breath caught in my throat. Complete and utter stillness. I had been moving for so long, the sudden absence of it was deafening. And that's when the sound started. It wasn't loud. It wasn't a jump scare. It was something far more intimate, far more unnerving. It was close, a soft, dry scrape, like a fingernail being dragged slowly across old, splintered wood. It came from somewhere in the house, but it felt like it was right beside my ear. The silence I had broken was now filled with this new, terrible thing. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that my stopping had summoned it. The next day, I had to be sure. I had to know if it was real or just a tired mind playing tricks on me in the dead of night, so I tested it. I created a little experiment. I walked the halls, pacing back and forth, my footsteps deliberately loud on the creaking floor. Silence. The house just listened. I sat down in the living room, flipping through a book, making sure my leg was bouncing, my fingers tapping the cover. Nothing. The air was still and heavy, but empty. Then, I took a deep breath, held it, and forced myself to be perfectly, absolutely still. I didn't move a muscle. 1 second passed. 2. And then, the floor creaked. Not under my feet, not from the house settling. It came from behind me. From the empty hallway I had just walked down. It was a single, deliberate sound. A response, an acknowledgement. The rule was real, my movement kept it away, my stillness invited it in. I started learning the pattern, the twisted logic of this presence. It was a predator, but not one I'd ever heard of. Movement kept it at bay. Constant, nervous, twitchy motion was my sanctuary. But the moment I surrendered to stillness, it would begin its approach. It didn't rush, though. That was the most terrifying part. It didn't charge down the hallway. It adjusted to me. It was as if it needed confirmation that I was truly ready. That my stillness wasn't just a brief pause, but an invitation. I'd stop moving, and a few seconds later, a sound would echo from the far end of the house. A shuffle, a soft knock. If I started moving again, the sounds would cease immediately. If I stayed still, the next sound would be a little closer. A little clearer. It was patient. It was waiting for me to give in completely. I thought maybe I could cheat the system. My body could be still, but my lungs couldn't. Breathing is a kind of movement, isn't it? So I tried it. I stood perfectly still in the center of my room, but I made my breathing loud and exaggerated. A deep, rhythmic inhale and exhale. I thought maybe the sound of my life, the constant push and pull of air, would be enough to keep it away. It didn't work. The scraping sound started again, this time from just outside my door. And I realized my mistake. It wasn't my steps it was following. It wasn't the physical motion of my limbs. It was my hesitation. The pauses. The tiny gaps between breaths, between heartbeats, between thoughts. The moments of surrender. That's what it was listening for. It didn't hunt action. It hunted the absence of it, and that's when I finally understood. Some things don't hunt motion. They don't need to chase you down. They hunt surrender. They feed on the moment you decide not to act, not to fight, not to run. The moment you give up. that's when it knows it has you. It's not the darkness it waits for, or the silence. It's the moment your will breaks. The moment you accept your fate and stop struggling. That's its signal. That's its dinner bell. It was waiting for me to stop trying. It was waiting for me to accept that it was there, and that there was nothing I could do. It was waiting for me to become as still on the inside as I was on the outside. Last night, I made a mistake. I was so tired. So bone-weary from the constant motion, the endless fidgeting. For just a few moments, I let myself go. I stood still for too long. Longer than ever before. I just closed my eyes and let the exhaustion wash over me. I surrendered. The sound came quickly this time. The familiar dry scrape, but it wasn't distant. It wasn't a test. It moved with purpose. From the living room down the hall, each scrape closer than the last. It reached my doorway, and then it stopped. The silence that followed was worse than any sound it had ever made. It was right there, right outside my room, waiting. Not for me to move, but for me to open the door. So this is how I live now. I pace, I fidget. I tap my fingers and bounce my knee. I never let myself freeze, not even for a second. Sleep is a series of short, frantic naps, broken by the need to get up and walk around. I can feel it, always, at the edge of my senses. It's not in the house, it is the house. And it doesn't need darkness or silence to find me. It just needs my certainty. The certainty that I've given up. It's still there on the other side of my door, and it's very, very patient. Some places don't want silence. They want permission. They want you to stop fighting so they can begin. If this story made you uncomfortable, if you felt that little prickle on the back of your neck, then do me a favor and like the video. It lets me know I'm not the only one who feels it. And for more stories that explore what waits for us in the quiet moments, subscribe to When Lights Out. Thanks for listening. Try not to stand still for too long.